moments before I went in to meet the director. Literally, like the heart-pounding sweat, can't breathe. I walked out of that audition and I just went, I'm not getting that.
I was screaming, Doug. I was screaming out into the air.
I understand what you mean about screaming into the air. We don't think of ourselves in our day-to-day life as being someone who could just completely and utterly lose it.
Go and have a pickle. You deserve it.
Yeah.
I might do the same.
Yeah.
I might do the same. Let's go
We'll
have a
both
pickle.
get off the call. We'll go have a pickle.
Hi everyone! Welcome to another episode of It's All in My Headset, a new web series exploring the mental health experiences of folks within the gaming world, from the content creators who play the games to the ones who make them in the industry. We are aiming to raise awareness of mental health one level at a time. As one of the clinical board members, we are also partnered with Safe in Our World, which is a mental health charity dedicated to supporting the games industry and wider community. And their mission is to eliminate the stigma surrounding mental health and ensure support can be accessed by those who need it. They support gamers and game developers across the globe with practical tools, training and resources. And you can find out more at safeinourworld.org. I'm your host, Sheila. I'm a full-time therapist, gamer, nerd, content creator. I am joined today by a very special guest. Not only an award winner for his performance as our beloved grump and hunk Geralt, he has talent spanning across multiverses. He has packed up his silver sword and traded it for tree hugging as the wonderful Dragonborn druid Kelyns in Natural Six's D&D play series. Doug is a passionate patron at Safe in Our World and is outspoken in his advocacy for mental health, bringing his creative and personal insight to meaningful conversations within the gaming world and beyond. Doug, welcome to my little show.
Hello. Wow, what an intro.
Did you like it? I was typing it furiously at midnight one night. I was like, I've got to get this perfect.
No, I love that. That's great. Can I use that on everything?
Yeah, you can take it. Absolutely. You can take it. I'm so honoured to have you here. I know we've met a few times through our lovely friend Holly, and every time we've kind of crossed paths, I've really wanted to just be like, Doug, tell me everything, because you have such an interesting narrative. I know you do a lot of work for Safe in Our World.
I'd like to do more, but it's that linking up at the right time with the right opportunities and all of that kind of stuff. I love Safe in Our World. I think it's a great charity.
So so how's your vibe? How are you feeling today?
I feel great.
Great! I'm so glad, because today I'm going to make sure that we cry and have a great time. No, I'm joking. I'm going to ruin it. No. So we've had a few conversations previously, and I know that when you talk a little bit about mental health and specifically your journey with it, you described it as quite a non-linear journey, and I think that's actually a really beautiful way to put it, because that's often what it is. Firstly, can you start us off at the beginning of your path, before your adventure to Kirmoran? You said that you moved to the UK with bigger,
I was thinking, like, how far back do you want me to go?
Your birth. No, you moved to the UK with big acting confidence, and you said even bigger acting dreams. What was going on for you?
Yeah, well, it was a weird one, Sheila. I kind of pushed my way into performing in a production of The Glass Menagerie at York Theatre Royal. So I went to the stage door and I asked, I said, has this been cast? And the woman there said, no, I think they're starting casting this week. And I was like, hot dog. I went back, I went home and I printed off my CV. I don't think I even auditioned the first time. I just had this chat. And then a few days later, I was offered the role of the gentleman caller.
Oh my God.
But that was all because I saw a sign outside the theater and took a shot.
You went for it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They would see that and go, oh, I bet that's already been cast. I'm not even going to, go ask.
Do you feel like you've always been like that as a person? Or is that something that you feel like grew with like experience and time? Being quite forthcoming with what you... I was going to say confident and getting, taking the initiative.
I think I have always had an inherent confidence, at least in my ability to walk into a room and not collapse. And it's served me well all my life. That's not to say that I don't get nervous or feel anxious or worry or feel uncertain or any of those things. But I think that there's some part of me that's like, right, this is what I've chosen to do. Now I just got to do it. And you push through all of that. until you're on the other side and have to deal with it. You know, I
Yeah.
think that's part of my coping mechanism with anxiety and things like that, is that I just go, I've made the decision, now I just have to jump. And
Mm.
once I've jumped, I have to deal with the situation. And once I'm
Mhm.
dealing with the situation, I'm okay.
You're fine. You're in it.
Yeah, my wife
Yeah.
always says I'm horrible with spilt milk, but I'm great in a crisis. So as long as I present myself with a bit of a crisis, I'm okay.
Yeah, you're able to go into full gear mode. And I think
Um,
that's really amazing. And I think you're absolutely right that actually that's quite unique. I don't think a lot of people are able to push past the anxiety. I mean, the way that our brain works is that when something makes us feel anxious, our brain does everything it can to make sure that we avoid it because it's
yeah,
danger, right? A lot of the times, like when I'm working with people with anxiety, I talk a lot about facing uncertainty and actually welcoming the anxiety as part of the process and not a stop
yeah,
button for it. So, you know, oh, I feel anxious means I shouldn't do this. No, like you feel anxious, that means you should do it with the anxiety. And it is really
yeah,
scary, but that's what you did.
yeah.
And I think that's really lovely. I'm sure a lot of people could be like, damn, like, yeah.
I mean, auditions are a whole nother thing. They can be absolutely terrifying. And I've ballsed some up pretty bad.
Mm.
Where my anxiety, I went to this one audition. Oh my goodness. This is well into my career.
Mm-hmm.
I was leaving a full-time teaching job to go back to full-time acting. So going from a place of financial security to a place of financial insecurity, I auditioned for a feature film with a really great director, and I got a call back to go and meet the director and audition in person for him. And I was sitting in the waiting room, and I just suddenly got hit by a panic attack. I'd never had one before, never ever, but because the weight of, if in my
Yeah.
mind I was going, if I get this job, because I was just about to leave this teaching job. You know, I only had like 2 weeks left, and I had nothing going on with the acting on the horizon. And so I was like, if I just get this job, it validates my choice. It validates
Oof.
everything that, me and my wife have decided. And I lost the job. I think I could have got it, but I had this panic attack in the waiting room moments before I went in to meet the director. Literally, like the heart pounding, sweat
Oh
pouring
my
down your head,
gosh.
can't breathe. I didn't have a paper bag. I was like trying to stop hyperventilating. I was literally a wreck. And then they called me in, and I jumped like I described before. I stood up, I went, I was a little bit dizzy because I was, hyperventilating. And I went in and I did this audition, and I was so nervous. And I ballsed it up. And
Mm.
I walked out of that audition, and got out onto the street, and I just went, well, I'm not getting that.
Doug, that must have been. I mean, do you mind if we actually, go back a little bit before that? I mean, firstly, to have an experience like that and I assume, continue pushing forward with auditions is
Yeah.
incredible because you're building on a very scary thing that happens. But I think it makes sense in the context of you were obviously going through a massive change. You've had to make quite drastic decisions in your career, which has often led you to amazing things. For example, moving different country. You were leaving teaching. You were looking at, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. I almost need this to work out to validate to myself. What was going on a little bit before?
Well, the anxiety was wrapped up in so many things. So many things. I'd been in this teaching job for 13 years, 12 of them as the course leader for the BA Honors acting course that I was teaching on. So for 12 of those years, I was responsible for all the students on the course. I was responsible for 16 or 20 members of teaching staff and support staff.
Jesus.
I was responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual budgets. I was responsible for increasingly the mental health
Mm.
of my students and my staff, because I had all these responsibilities, and there were a lot of things about the job that I absolutely loved. I was directing shows. I loved watching students progress. I loved getting to know the students. I loved meeting these 18-year-olds who came in as first years and getting to know them, and over 3 years getting to know them as people and artists and seeing how they grew and then
Mm.
watching them go out into the world and go
Mhm.
do their thing, whatever
Mhm.
their thing ended up being.
Mhm.
And staying in touch with some of them because some of them I became friends with,
Mhm.
you know, just because they were wonderful people who I enjoyed hanging out with.
Mhm.
And the same thing with my staff. I had good relationships with all my staff, but there were some who I really enjoyed working with. I was also recording lots of video games and doing professional acting work, which the university was encouraging me to do because it's, you know, me staying current in my practice.
Yeah.
It's important, you know, practice what you preach. Um, so, but there was a period of time when um, I was basically doing that full-time job, which was easily a 50-hour-a-week job.
Jesus.
Um, and then on the side, I was going from Bournemouth up to London,
Mm.
um, you know, frequently enough to do voiceover work. So I was working 7 days a week quite often, you know, whatever administrative work or marking of papers I couldn't do during the week because I had gone up to London for a day or 2. I did on the weekends. I had small children. I had, you know, there was a
You
lot
that
going on
is
in life.
that is a recipe for burnout.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
my health was suffering. My, I had anger issues at home.
Mm.
You know, my wife and I were getting in these rows that were just completely unnecessary, and it was
Mm.
largely due to the amount of stress that I was under and that she was under because I was under stress.
Yeah.
We we went to breakfast one morning, and I was having skin issues, like, you know, rosacea that came out of nowhere, and I was angry all the time,
Mm.
and you know, it would come out at the kids and it would, you know, and the dog and, you know, I mean, nobody was immune. And that was partly because I had to wrap all that up when
Yeah.
I was at work. I had to be the boss and I had to be supportive and I had to help people and I had to make
Yeah.
things happen and I had to fix problems. And, you know, I had students who had real issues and I was the one who could make the difference for them. So I couldn't be angry at work, and I couldn't let any of that frustration out at work. And I came home, and I did not that I wanted to let it out at home, but it had to come out.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so it was
absolutely.
coming out at my family.
Mm.
And we were at breakfast, and things weren't great. We were chatting, and my wife just said, "Doug, you've got to do something. You've got to make a change because you're going to die." My blood pressure, my blood pressure was, I think the highest I recorded was 198 over 132. Yeah,
Your body was literally like holding on to all of
yeah,
this, and
it was
you were, I mean, it sounds like you're also just like a high functioner, so
yeah,
you were working at this capacity to the
yeah,
point where it
something
was
was
just
gonna break.
seeping out of you and something was gonna, and you know, relating to the panic attack, you know, that was also a bit, I'm sure, a bit of residue of that pop, you know, that
Yeah, absolutely.
release of like fight or flight
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, exactly, that's where it came from, and I've described I think it took 4 years, maybe 5, to return to some kind of normal.
After that.
After that, yeah,
Oof.
I went back to teaching for a short while. I tried the freelance thing and it was okay. I wasn't getting as much
Mm.
work as I kinda needed to make it really work, so I went back to teaching, and that didn't work. It was during the lockdown, the first lockdown, and so there was all that as well. But I describe that period of time as like a diver coming up from the depths, and how you have to come up slowly or you get the bends.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, I was so deep in this mental health struggle
Hmm.
and general health struggle that it took 5 years to come up to the surface.
Mm.
Um,
Can I ask a little bit about, so obviously you had the panic attack and you'd never had one before.
hmm.
How did that sit with you, that experience afterwards, you know, navigating that had happened?
It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. It was terrifying in the moment because I felt so out of control. I looked at the clock and I was like, I've got 4 minutes to get my act together here. And I went into the bathroom and I leaned against the sink and I think I splashed my face with water or something. And I was trying to get control of myself. And I thought, I'm going to pass out in this bathroom. I don't know what I'm
Mm,
losing it. And I
mm,
managed to go back out and sit down and I did the whole thing. And I just remember walking back to the tube station to get to Waterloo to come home. And I was like, that's it. I think this is it. That's my life's done.
oof,
I can't, I'm never gonna work again. I'm never gonna, if that's my future, if I'm gonna have a panic attack every time I go into an audition now, I can't do it. I can't do that. And I don't know how I came out of that.
mm,
I have a feeling it had something to do with my wife talking me back.
mm,
But and where this started, to just to come around a little bit, is I was gonna talk about that confidence.
mm,
So where's this confidence gone? Um,
mm.
there's a certain confidence you have to build as an actor to do a show. You know, every single time I have stood in the wings on opening night with an audience for the first time out there waiting to see what we've been working on for however long we've been rehearsing, my anxiety is way up here.
Yep.
And there's a certain amount of terror as well. Is it going to work? Are they going to laugh at the jokes? Am I going to remember my lines? Oh my God, is that prop going to be where I need it to be? Oh crap, I'm sweating. Oh, have I
Yeah.
missed my cue? Oh, all this stuff, as you're waiting to go on. And then your cue hits and you jump. And then all the preparation and all the training and everything is there.
It's
And,
like a
and
switch.
yeah, and you have to trust that it's going to be there. So I think that's part of that confidence that we were talking about. But then, here suddenly I was having a panic attack
Yeah.
at this thing that I used to have great confidence in doing. And I was
Mm,
doing similar things at home. It was when they just started doing self tapes. They were very infrequent, but they just started doing self tapes for commercials and TV and things like that. And I couldn't remember lines. I was I and I'd be trying to do this self tape, and I'd be so angry because I couldn't remember the lines, and the angrier I got,
the worst, yeah.
the worse it got. The whole thing was just a spiral down
Mm,
into actor hell,
mm,
and personal hell as well.
mm,
So yeah, it was. I didn't, I had forgotten about that, Sheila. I'd forgotten entirely about that panic attack
I think
until we started talking about this.
yeah, it was a whole kind of rupture of the roots. You'd had a certain system that had been working. You'd been
Mm,
doing the working at the university. 7 days a week, 50 hours a week. You had been doing that for such a long time without that space to process coming. It's almost as if you've had a conversation with your wife. She's like, listen, something's going to have to break. I think it's so natural that you walked into that audition and you were like, well, this is the thing that needs to change. And if this doesn't change, then what am I going to do? I mean, you said it took about 4 to 5 years to recover.
mm.
What was recovery like? Or like, at least what was the healing process after that?
Well, I, I described it as like a diver coming up and
Yeah.
having to take their time to not get the bends. That's a lovely image,
Mm,
but it wasn't like I was rising like this.
very gradually. It's never like
It,
that.
no, it was more like I'd go,
Yeah.
always a little bit, 2 steps forward, 1 step back
Yeah.
kind of thing. A big part of the healing process was about time. It just time. I haven't really thought about this, so I'm discovering this now. With that time, I think a certain amount of understanding of where I was, where I had got to, and to be able to see it
Mm-hmm.
and to acknowledge it, and then to say, but that's not where I am now. One of the beautiful things about where I'm at in life right now, my wife and I both work for ourselves. I often work on the weekends, and my wife, she works on a family business that doesn't require specific office hours. So sometimes, we've stopped going and doing things on weekends. We tend to work on the weekend.
Mm.
And then on Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever day we want to, when everybody else is at work, we go for nice long walks on the beach.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's.
there's and you don't
Mhm.
we don't have the crowds, we
Mhm.
take the dog, it's nice and quiet.
Mhm.
It's really reflective time. We've always been very good at walking and
Mm.
talking through things we want to do, things we want to change, things we're trying to work out.
Mhm.
Going for a nice long walk is one of the places we do that.
Mhm.
Um, and it's nice to be able to do that when there aren't hundreds of other people doing the
Yeah.
same thing.
Well, having that
So
that reflective space, but also having that breath. You were
yeah,
coming from that time where you didn't have any space to process, to offload, to discover. Unfortunately, it was a difficult way that you learn what is your capacity, what
yeah,
can I do, how many spoons do I have, and where can I put them,
yeah,
which is, you know, I hate to say that the line is that you go through things and you learn about yourself. It's terrible to go through them. Like, let's validate that
yeah.
it's awful.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't realize the
Yeah.
hole that you're getting into.
Yeah, 100%.
You just suddenly find yourself there because you've been coping and
100%.
coping and coping and coping,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you're like, "I can't see the top of the
Yeah.
hole
What's
anymore."
happening right now?
Yeah.
I just I hope you don't mind. I don't want to take too much away from your narrative.
No.
But it was actually quite validating to listen to, because I experienced my first burnout recently. As a therapist, it is very, very common, and I didn't realize it was happening. It's exactly as you said.
Mm,
Obviously, I work in the public sector, and naturally the mental health industry, unfortunately, in the UK, is very understaffed and very underfunded. So I see 30 patients a week. I see 6 to 7 a day. Like,
mhm.
it's non-stop. And as part of my role, I treat mental health difficulties, but we also do cognitive assessments, which is people coming into the service and you have no idea what they're going to tell you. It could be a very simple stress, I'm stressed at work, or it could be the worst, most traumatic thing that you've ever heard in your life, that they've
Yeah.
escaped from. It can be really, what am I going to get today? And I've been working at this level for probably, say, a year and a half at this point, maybe taking little breaks of annual leave here and there. And I remember I didn't even notice it, but very similarly, like, I started to be really irritable. I wasn't really I was finding everything, when I'd get home, I would just want to lay on the sofa, and conversations would piss me off, but that wouldn't piss me off usually, and small things would annoy me. And, I would find myself, like, I could hear myself, and I didn't know what was happening to me.
Mm.
And it kind of, to even admit it as a therapist, I think not many do, but even when I was going into sessions with clients, I found that my empathy was, not that it was not there, but it was almost like a wall had come up. And I would describe myself as someone that's actually quite emotionally giving and emotionally
Yeah.
present. And it was the first time that I felt distant from a client, no matter what it was. And
Yeah.
it was just this distance, this separation from other people around me, everyone. I was in this little box. And it's really validating to hear that, because it was only when I sat down with my supervisor and I just thought, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I feel like I don't feel like I'm myself. And it was this whole discovery of, Sheila, I think you're burnt out. Like, I think you've been working at a really high capacity. You need to take annual leave. Like, you need to go now. Like, take time off. And I did, and I had to do that. But from that experience, I walked away realizing that as much as I probably could work at that capacity, it doesn't mean I should.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I should. And I have to put boundaries in. Otherwise, burnout is going to happen. But it took, for that, 3 or 4 weeks of just feeling like I was a different person. I mean, anyway, so it was just really validating to listen to you, and I suppose it's applicable no matter what your
Yeah.
area is.
It's really easy to give of yourself until there's nothing left.
Yeah, yeah,
And then,
yeah,
when you have nothing left, how do you give?
yeah.
How do you, and what is it you're giving at that point?
Yeah, exactly. You had the the 4 years, the 5 years of navigating that and learning a bit about your boundaries, was this happening at the time that you had the Witcher stuff, or was this just before?
Do you know, The Witcher 1, 2, and 3, and the DLCs were all recorded while I was still teaching full time.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so this is why I was
This was
saying,
the time.
yeah, and I was doing other games as well,
Yeah.
and TV shows and commercials. So it really was burnout, on from multiple fronts. Something I was just thinking about.
Yeah.
Part of my healing process was actually breaking myself again, kind of
Oh,
deliberately. So I
okay.
left. I
I like
left.
that.
Yeah, I mean, didn't think of it that way at the time, but it was one of those retrospective things where I just went and got eaten by lions again because I forgot how it felt. Um, Sometimes you forget the trauma, um,
Yeah.
deliberately
Yeah.
or you just forget,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
absolutely. I think the brain's really good at that, though. Like, you
yeah,
absolutely will remember, oh my God, that was a difficult time. And, we do remember the emotions and the feelings
yeah,
connected to that. But absolutely, we have this innate ability to distance ourselves from very traumatic and graphic things that happen to us to a
and
fault.
and we have to. We
Yeah,
have to.
absolutely.
Yeah. But so I think part of my healing process was actually I went back to teaching very
Mm,
briefly. Went back in knowing how much I gave in the previous one, and I
mm-hmm,
set myself limits.
mm-hmm,
And I went back in going, I am not going to do this and that and this and that. I'm going to fight for my corner, and I'm not going to give in to
mm.
um, certain senior management pressures and things because I know how that works. I understand how it works. I'm just not going to
Oh, I
give into
see.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into this job, and I was definitely bullshit, but it was bullshit for the right reasons. And I wasn't confirmed at the 6 month probationary period.
Mm.
And it was because I didn't get on with my manager because they were requiring very unrealistic things
Right.
that I was, based on my previous experience, unwilling to take on. And
Mm.
so what was one, and I remember this manager. I
Mm-hmm.
my memories of her are not good. I don't
Okay.
feel that she was a particularly nice person
Sure.
or a good manager, but she said something just as we were getting off the call where I was basically being fired. Um, she said, "Doug," and this is during the pandemic. So I was being spit out into the freelance acting world that was shut down
During
during COVID.
and she would
Um,
have known that as well.
oh, of
Like
course
she,
she knew that. Yeah, and there's a
unbelievable.
part of me that thinks that she probably got off that call and went, "Fucker, asshole, go suffer." She would never say that to me to my face, but
Well, she sounds
I
like she
bet
didn't
she got
respect
off that
boundaries
call.
anyway, so I wouldn't put it past her.
No.
So
So
she
anyway,
obviously
so
didn't
so
have,
she
yeah.
said to me as we were getting off the call, she said, "Doug, look at this as, a blessing in disguise. Try to look at this as a
Huh.
blessing in disguise." And at the time, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you bitch, whatever." You know? But I was thinking that because I was
Yeah.
really angry
Yeah,
with her,
yeah, yeah. Of course.
and, and then it proved to be true because kind of what it did was it lit a fire under me, and
Mm,
I decided to go back to school. So I signed up to do a Master's of Business Administration. It gave me some time and space to explore me, and I thought, "I'm gonna move sideways. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna use this MBA to move sideways." Um, and that was all I knew.
mm,
So I spent a year doing that, and it turned out to be a good year for acting for me anyways,
mm-hmm.
'cause voiceover work you can do from home to a
Mm-hmm.
certain
You can do
extent.
remotely.
Yeah, you can
Mm-hmm.
do it remotely to a certain extent. When I finished the MBA, I started looking at all kinds of jobs and stuff, and I didn't see anything I liked, nothing that made me go, "Oh, I wanna do that."
Yeah.
So I just kept doing acting, and gradually I started bringing little pieces of my MBA into my acting. Something I started doing once all the restrictions were lifted and stuff, I was nominated for a BAFTA in 2016 for Witcher 3 Blood and Wine
Mm-hmm.
DLC, and off the back of that, I joined BAFTA as a member. and I started judging. I was on judging panels, and I started working with BAFTA. They started doing a BAFTA Games social event the first Friday of every month, and I went to one of these early on that they just started doing them, and I met people who I knew but hadn't seen in years or had never met in person, but I knew who they were. I knew their work, and I'd always wanted to meet them or work with them or whatever. And suddenly I was face to face with these people, and I remember coming home after the first one. I said to my wife, "It was really cool. I think I'd like to go to another one." So I went to, I don't know, one or two or three on my own, and then I said, "Hey, do you want to come with me?" To my wife. Because there's just these lovely people, and I'm having such a great time. I think you'd like these people, and so we'd just get together at BAFTA on the first Friday of every
That's
month
so nice.
and
Getting
just
that connection you were talking
yeah,
about that was
have
missing.
drinks, and,
Yeah.
I reconnected with people I hadn't seen in years, and we started going regularly, and we'd book a hotel, and we'd drive up, and we'd go to BAFTA, stay late, get back to the hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning, having had fantastic conversations with people. I started going to lunch with people outside of the BAFTA thing. I started building a community. Um, but that was only possible because I think partly because of the MBA, because I
Okay.
went, and we talked about it, this is an investment. I'm spending money that I don't necessarily have to go and be part of this event so that I can talk to people,
Yep.
make those connections,
Yep.
and see where they go.
Yeah.
And the
Build on
return
it.
on that investment was
Yeah.
relationships that today that actually directly led to Natural Six.
That's so interesting. But I think that comes down to you again, this confidence that you were talking about, this desire for you to constantly push forward. Having difficulties with mental health, with burnout, whatever it might be, and anything, we can really sometimes want to just dig our feet into the sand or pull the cover over us and be like, you know what, I'm just going to revisit this another time, or it's clearly not for me. But even when you went back to the uni, tried to make that work again, didn't work out this time. It was not well, what the fuck do I do now? I'm just going to revel in this. It was, I'm going to pick up these emotions, and I'm going to acknowledge that this is really fucking hard, but I'm going to utilize that, and it's going to move me forward. You've always had this little fire up your bum.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, my mom once described, she did this several times. She called me her shooting star.
Oh, that's
Um,
so
which,
cute.
yeah, it was cute. It's cute to everybody except my younger sister.
Oh yeah, she's gonna hate it. Older brothers
Yeah.
get all of the favoritism. I know that because I'm a younger sister for an older
Yeah, well,
brother.
there you
So
go. Yeah.
I'm biased. I'm with your sister.
But yeah, my mom kind of saw that in me. I think it was 15 or 16 different schools. We lived in about 12 or 13 different houses,
So Doug, you've always had to
in
adapt. You've
in
always
five
had
states.
to. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
You've
so I
always
think I
had
I
to.
learned early on that I had to just muck in. But I think there was something in me as well that my mom said she would drop me off in a playground full of kids I didn't know, and within 5 minutes, I was leading a gaggle of kids in some activity.
It's like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, it was Lord of the Flies kind of thing, and somehow I would just go and go, "Hey, guys, let's go do this," and they'd all follow me, and
That's amazing.
so, yeah, there is something in there that there is a natural fire up my bum thing, but I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, that going back to teaching in higher education and then the experience that I had there, it did crush me. It hurt me
Mm.
bad. I think that the doing the MBA was my way of going, "Fuck you. You're not gonna,
Yeah.
you're not gonna hold me down."
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going with all
No,
this.
I mean, I think this is great because actually one of my questions was, what have you learned from the experiences? And I feel like you've really hit the nail on the head. It seems to be that you've learned about your own boundaries, you learned about your own capacity, you learned about what you needed, which you still continue now with your wife, and the long walks and the self-care and the sense of community and investing in people. So you were voice acting whilst you were experiencing burnout, and
Oh
a
yeah.
ton of Well, a ton of doing, roles, working in games and stuff is working with really complex themes. Some of the quests in The Witcher, we don't, that's
Yeah.
how was
The Bloody
that?
Baron.
The
My
Bloody
goodness.
Baron, thank you. I was about to mention that. I never thought a flying ghost baby would make me cry until I played that mission, so I'm traumatized, thanks. How was navigating really complex or difficult performances like that? How was that navigating alongside burnout when you were already
Yeah.
at your emotional capacity?
Do you know, I have never really had a problem with boundaries when I'm acting.
Okay.
Some people, some people, I don't know what they do exactly. Some people invest too much of themselves in what they do. Maybe some people are triggered by certain themes, certain
Yeah.
issues. Um, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that is. It just
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, people are different.
Yeah, people are different. I've never had a problem with boundaries. I quite like exploring the hard stuff. I've always been the kind of actor who leaves my personal life at the door when I go into a rehearsal room or into a theater or onto a set or
Yeah.
a recording booth or whatever it is. My personal issues are not they're relevant. They're relevant because my personal experience of life, um, all of it, is directly relevant to how I interpret the words I see on a
Yeah.
page. I firmly believe that you can't produce believable, truthful acting if you don't use yourself, your own experiences, your own pain, your own joy, your own all of those things. I don't mean to live them again. I mean to understand them. There have been times when I've been so upset that I'm crying uncontrollably. Everybody's done it, where you're sitting on the edge of your bed or something else, and you are just everything's coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this this could sound really weird. I've increasingly, as I went through actor training, I developed this weird ability at those moments to have a little piece of me step outside and observe me. Isn't that weird?
That's really
It's
interesting. I
really
wouldn't say it's
strange.
weird. I
I think
think,
it's weird. I think I
okay.
think I think that's I mean, it can't be too unhealthy because it serves me well, but it is weird because when I started noticing it happening, I was like, here I am having a moment of emotional catharsis, and I can sense an objective part of me watching myself go through this crisis and making note of what it looks like, what it feels like, how I behave, how I'm moving through this catharsis.
Mm.
Making a note of it so that I can use it later, not relive
Mm.
it,
Mm.
but refer back to it and go, "I know how that feels."
Mm.
And
Mm.
I do it in arguments as well. It doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while, I can sense a little piece of me out from outside looking in going, "What are you" not, "What are you doing?" But, "What am I doing?"
Trying to understand.
Trying to understand the process,
Mm.
the physical, emotional, psychological process that I'm going through.
Do you feel like that's derived from acting, or do you feel like that's something that you've actually
I
done
think
as an individual?
I think it's probably something that I naturally did, but through actor training, I began to recognize that part of myself,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Mm.
Like it was
Mm-hmm.
invisible to me,
Mm-hmm.
or it was something I wasn't actively
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly I started acknowledging it, seeing it, and
Mm-hmm.
going, not sure if that's healthy, but it's there.
Mm. I suppose it's an aspect of. I mean, let's just refer to it as like a third person for a
Mm,
second.
mm.
But like, I suppose it's an aspect of Doug that's trying to make sense of the emotional turmoil that's happening. I think it's a way to step out from that when things get a bit painful and to try and understand how to get not back into control. Almost if I understand it and I can analyze what's happening to myself,
Hmm.
I'm going to feel more in control about it. A lot of the times, when you're really good at being quite analytical and you're like, well, I know that I'm like this because of this that happened in my childhood. You know, sometimes you'll get individuals that are really good at telling you what happens when they're upset, why they're upset. They've done all of the logical thinking about themselves. But there's something that analysis is really good for. Being logical about things that we've been through is really good for, is that it actually kind of stops us from integrating what's happening to us into ourselves.
Hmm.
And you find that with people that come to therapy and they're like, well, I know what's wrong with me, but I can't get better. And it's because analysis, or at least sometimes being very, very logical in that regard towards your emotion, is a way to separate it and not be completely in it. Is to not integrate it into you.
Yeah.
As you said, I mean, that has had a way for you to bring your emotion and personal experience into the room as an actor and fuel your work with passion and integrity. Really, you're stepping into it from a real understanding of it. But in those moments, it's a way to protect and to ensure that there is a little bit of space there that's not fully submerging into this whole turmoil, because sometimes that's too painful.
Well, and it's not helpful. You know,
Yeah.
I had so many students who, when asked why they want to be an actor or something like that, they give reasons like, well, it's like therapy. It's that, it allows me to, and I red flags, big old red flag. No, please don't think about it that way. 'Cause I don't want to be on stage with you when you go through your therapy.
Yeah, that's actually not that healthy. I mean, I would understand the idea of that. I'm processing what I've been through that, but don't do that in acting.
Yeah.
That's not good. Go and do that with a therapist.
Yeah. I think therapy is a really good thing, and I love the what you said about analysis. When I left the first teaching job, when I initially left higher education, um, I'd already. I can't remember if this is before I resigned or after I resigned. I think it's before I resigned. I went and saw a therapist, and it was only I think 8 sessions I did with her, but it was an I said I want to go to a therapy, but before I make any choices, I want to go see a therapist.
Wow.
And I just remember being really I didn't know what to expect really, but I was really surprised because all we really did was sit down and chat for an hour, and she would ask me questions and I'd answer them. And sometimes I'd say something and she'd ask me to dig a little bit further. It was never like, "Tell me what your mother did to you when you were a
Yeah.
child." It was
That's like,
just
yeah.
yeah. So how are you so how are you feeling today? "Oh, I'm feeling okay. I'm a little bit anxious. I'm still trying to get my head around this choice. How do I square up this circle?" And then, she'd say, "Well, I can't remember exactly, but, something like, "Well, what are the benefits of leaving the teaching job for you? And what are the benefits of staying?" And just asking open questions like that about, well, guiding a conversation where you discover what you're thinking about things. And I think that we can very easily get wrapped up in I've certainly done this, you've probably done this. I think everybody does it, and we don't always recognize it, but I call it looping.
Oh yeah, like rumination, going over it and over it and over
Yeah,
it.
round
Yeah.
and round and round and round about
Yeah.
the same problem and
Yeah.
never finding a way out of the circular
There's a
thing.
belief that if you think about it for long enough, you'll think of something new, and it never happens.
Yeah. That's part of the role of a therapist, is to break you out of the loops that you're stuck in
Yeah.
and help you think outside the box and around the box
Yeah.
and well, what if? But that
And
can
that,
take
yeah.
time as well.
Yeah.
Or I'm telling a therapist what a therapist does. But it's
No, I mean,
it's more for the people who are watching or listening who might be thinking, "I don't need therapy."
yeah.
Well, maybe you don't, but
Yeah.
it ain't gonna hurt.
Also, I think therapy looks differently for different people. I
Yeah.
think it's actually quite an individualized process. So the way that I give therapy would be different from, of course there's similarities across the board in the way that you train, sure, but I think each therapist has their own style and their own way that they like to build rapport and stuff. So I
Yeah.
think it's really interesting that you felt that it was the open-endedness and it was the mirror, bouncing off of, it's not, it's not always about digging into every little bit of dirt that's happened in the past and what that's led you to. Sometimes it is just about what's going on for you right now. What's
Yeah.
going in your head, because oftentimes that's going to tell you about the inner beliefs and the schemas and the core systems that are happening. It's the way that we function as people is based on our experiences, right? And you can learn a lot from a person just by asking them, okay, what did you do about that? Or what are you going to do about that? It tells you a lot about someone.
Yeah. And since we've brought it up,
Yeah.
and since we're both active and safe in our world, just to bring them into this discussion, um, I think it's really important. I was just thinking, someone may be watching this or listening to it
Yeah.
and thinking, yeah, but I don't know where to go to get
Yeah.
that kind of help, or where do you start? Well, you can start with Safe in Our World, actually, because on the Safe in Our World website, which is just
Yeah.
safeinourworld.org.uk, I think,
Just
or
.org.
just .org, safeinourworld.org. On there are loads of resources
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
So if you're suffering from anxiety, or you're abusing substances, or a mere any myriad of
Anything,
things you
yeah.
may be experiencing, there's loads of resources on the Safe in Our World website that don't have a solution for you, but they can point you in a direction to get started finding a
Give you
solution.
guidance. Yeah, and I think actually starting to look at material or resources about stuff is honestly the hardest step. Actually sitting down and being like, I think I have something happening for me. How do I navigate this? That's the hardest step, honestly.
The beauty of the online world is it's anonymous. You can just sit in the privacy of your home and go have a look around and see if something chimes with your need.
That's a really nice way to put it. See if something chimes with you. What are some roles that you find have really chimed with you, in your words?
Yeah, well, I've never considered myself a singer, and I don't consider myself a dancer, but I've performed in 2 musicals professionally.
Okay, amazing.
Um,
Well, you obviously are then, but that's okay. You can be humble about it, Doug. That's fine.
yeah, well, I am not a triple threat. I'm an actor. I can sing, but I'm not a singer. I can move, but I'm not a dancer. My agent called me, have you ever done a musical? No, I don't think they'd want to hire me. I don't think I can sing and dance well enough. She said, well, this one's a little bit different. It's not like a full-blown song and dance musical. It's more like a play with music. I was like, okay, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. So I went to the audition and I got it, and I was like, I don't know if I can accept this. This is terrifying. This is terrifying. I've never done a musical before. And she was like, yeah, well, you got to do it then.
You're going to do one now. That's going to change.
Yeah. So, there have been things and that was a great experience. I had a great time. I think in life, it's really good if something scares you, as long as it's not, like not going to kill you or injure you or anything like that. If it's a psychological scared, I think you should do it, because that's how you grow.
That's partly, you know what, like doing this podcast, I was terrified.
Yeah.
And I'm an extrovert. I don't really get scared by talking to people. I think it's probably what I can do well.
Yeah.
But talking to people, for some reason on this show, I'm always terrified before I press record. And I don't know why.
Well, because it's a show. I was before we got on, I was downstairs making a cup of tea to bring up with me. This very cup of tea that I hold here in my sweet little hands now.
The cup of tea.
It's mint tea, and I was making this cup of tea, and I felt the pre-show anxiety coming up.
Interesting.
Yes, but even just having a chat with you, and I had to tell myself. I mean, it wasn't bad, it wasn't horrible, but I recognized, and I actually just said to myself in my head, I was like, "You're just gonna go and have a nice chat with a lovely person, Doug. That's what you're doing. That's all you're doing." And that pushed that little bit of rising anxiety back down.
Well, I think it's because what, interesting enough, I said to myself, I was feeding my cat, because otherwise if I didn't, he would be climbing on the chair and we wouldn't be able to do anything. But when I was feeding my cat, I was like, I'm nervous because I care. I'm nervous and I'm anxious about this because I really care about what's happening, and I literally said to myself, I'm gonna use this. This is my passion. This is gonna help me, be really present in this. And that was the way that I was trying to reframe it to myself. I was still shitting myself, don't get me wrong, but I was trying to reframe it. I was like, yeah, I'm passionate about this. Terrified.
I love that phrase. I use it. I love it. I shitting myself. I love it because it's such a great description. It is that feeling of I'm out of control.
Yeah.
I don't, I can't stop what's about to happen.
I'm going to bring the mood down a little bit, Doug, and I'm really sorry.
Okay.
Because we'll talk about some deep stuff now. When we spoke previously, we did speak a little bit about grief and the journey of grief. I was really interested in actually opening up a little bit of a discussion about your experience and journey with grief. As someone, I'm navigating it, I'm quite new to the journey. But we were speaking about losing a parent and the impact. And could you talk me through a little bit about that? Obviously, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah. So my mother passed away in 2021. 2020? 2021. My mother passed away. It was expected. It wasn't a surprise. She'd been sick for a long, long time. She had MS. She was riddled with cancer. So we were fully expecting her to pass away, but that nothing really prepares you for, someone who's been in your life your entire life, to suddenly not be there. And I certainly grieved, but I think it's a weird one when you have, like, if she'd been hit by a bus, I would have grieved differently because it would have been sudden, and there would have been a long period of time during which I'd be going through the 7 stages maybe. I would be trying to work out how this new reality fits into my life. But for me, my mother had been slowly declining for years, and by the time she passed away, I think I'd already been grieving for a long time, grieving incrementally. The small losses, her loss of balance, her loss of ability to pay attention for very long, um, her cognitive decline, the loss of the woman who was my mother, who raised me and who I grew up with.
Yeah.
She was gone. I mean, not entirely, but there was only little bits of her
Aspects.
left, it felt like.
Yeah.
So I think that, and it was hard as well, because when that happens, anybody who's been through that will understand exactly what I'm talking about. You have to keep letting little pieces of that person go. And every time you do that, there's a new grieving process. It's not like it's just one grieving process. Well, it is one grieving process, but it's one grieving process of, oh gosh, now they can't do that. Oh, now they don't remember, or their reality is different now, or it's like people who are caring for someone with Alzheimer's, and watching the slow loss of the person that they know.
Yeah.
Wanting to hold on to that, but not knowing how, and often not being able to,
Yeah.
and finding yourself grieving bits of the person. So I think that's the process that I went through, and I think that it made me quite angry sometimes as well. That I couldn't, certainly made me angry that I couldn't help her. And when she did die, there was a certain amount. I mean, I cried. I was here. I couldn't get there in time to be there when she passed. But there was enough time for my dad and my younger sister to contact me and say that it's happening. It's not weeks or days. It's hours or minutes now. So I was able to get on a FaceTime call with her and say, it's okay, Mom, you can go. We're all okay. And that was really hard, but like I said before, my wife says I'm terrible with spilt milk, but great in a crisis, and that was a crisis. And so I
Yeah.
held myself together
Yeah.
for my mom, and then we got off the call, and I just and my wife and my two boys who were um, I think they were 16 and 14 at the time. They were there. They were there for me. It's not easy.
Mm.
Um, and you've, well, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I kind of just first thing wanted to reflect on the the weird FaceTiming in that situation must have been almost you almost reaching, and I couldn't imagine that must have been just so. I mean, I think it makes sense that you came off that call when that was must have been really
No, I'm
difficult.
tearing up now just thinking about it because it was a it was I so badly wanted to be there, but there to get to where she was, it was 24-hour journey, so
Yeah,
there wasn't enough time.
that's so difficult, and it's so difficult to hear that you had to sit with that and you couldn't be. That's really really challenging.
Yeah, yeah, it was literally I think a couple hours after I got off the phone with her that I got the message from my sister that she'd gone. So yeah,
Yeah.
so better that I was able to go through that particular process
Mm.
here at home with my family than
Yeah, the support
in
network.
the Atlantic,
Yeah, yeah. That's positive, right? If that you were surrounded by people to catch you,
Yeah.
um, in that regard, and yeah, my journey with grief is it's weird. I had it slightly different because my it was my stepdad. He was my dad for all intents and purposes, but him and my mum very very happy, but lived separately and had done for
Mm,
13 years, and that was great. But it meant that we didn't live with him, and yeah, I was on my way to work, and he had a heart attack on his doorstep,
oh,
which is like out of the blue. Of course, we weren't there as well. So I was on my way to work, and I got the message. I think because it was all happening, bless my mum was obviously in massive shock as well. So she kind of messaged me and then called me, and it was all trying to figure out what the fuck was happening. And I thought it was a joke. I went
mm,
into shock mode, and I started texting my dad and calling him because I was like, "This is like what this is not real." And then I think I went into a massive state of hysteria really in the middle of the street, which is
oh,
I'm not really that type of person as well. I'm quite private with my emotions, so it was obviously naturally it was just like what the fuck was happening. And yeah, I called my fiance. He was like on a job out of London, like he wasn't even there, and he was navigating, could I get back, and he was just trying to say, okay, get yourself, because I'd come out the tube station and my work was maybe a 15-minute walk, and he said, get
mm,
yourself to the office and get yourself next to someone, go and tell someone at work. And so I walked to work, and I went in, and I got my laptop out, and there was no one in the office. It was just this whole weird
oh
timing of like
wow,
there being no one around, and I
yeah,
like had to very weirdly, I was like teams my manager in the other office, and was just like in hysterics, and was just like, I don't know what I'm doing,
mhm,
and it was really traumatic. It
yeah,
was really really awful. But my grief has been weird. It's been very different because it's not something that I was even expecting. So I those like 7 stages you spoke about of
mm,
being able to go through that. I find that I'm not going through one at a time in a linear way. I find that I'll go through denial, and then I'll go to, I don't know, anger or whatever it is, and then I'll go back to denial. And it was literally the other day I was at a tube station, and I walked out, and there was a guy that looked identical to my stepdad because he was a bit of a character. He was like a cow. He hated the word cowboy, but he dressed a little bit. He had a massive cowboy hat on with a feather in it, and he had like a plaited beard. He was just really eccentric. And I saw a guy that looked identical to him, and I thought it was my dad.
oh wow,
And it was cue the whole hysteria again. It's like a
wow,
wave of anyway. So that's my experience, slightly different, but it's
Yeah.
still,
And
I'm
how
still
long
in
ago
it.
how long ago did he pass away?
That was November last year.
Yeah, so it's
So,
still really fresh, really.
yeah. I'm actually impressed that I've managed to speak about it without crying because most of the time I can't get
Yeah,
even.
well done you. I mean, my mom passed away in March 2021, and just now talking about when that all happened, it got me going again.
Yeah.
So it's a funny thing, grief. And it's personal
Mhm.
to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's we've got these 7 stages of grief and stuff, and you know people don't just necessarily go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4.
No.
You can experience all of them at the same time.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. Oh my god, absolutely. I remember like it's just I was so angry after. Like I remember sitting on my sofa with my best friend and my fiance in between them, and I was like I was screaming, Doug. I was screaming out into the air, and I was like, why the fuck? Like, what, I was just like, what do you mean that I never see him again? Like,
Mm,
what do you mean? Like,
mhm.
and I was almost screaming to the air. And I, like, bless my loved ones, they were just really just holding me through that. I probably looked like I was, not well, but I was
Well, you weren't.
so,
You
I
weren't
wasn't,
well.
I wasn't. No, you're right. But it's a whole, like, I feel like I am a different person to who I was before that happened. I wonder if you feel the same. Like, I'm a different person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't know. I would describe it differently. I was a
Mm.
different person in that moment than I expected myself to be,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
perhaps because I think until things like that happen, we don't know how we're going to react. We don't know how we're going to respond. We don't I understand what you mean about screaming into the air. I totally get that. Um, we don't think of ourselves in our day-to-day life as being someone who could just completely and utterly lose it.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but everybody can completely and utterly lose it.
Yeah.
And I think people who are, um, in their day-to-day I mean, this is everybody, I suppose, but I think some people are more tightly wound up in how they come across, in society than others.
Yeah.
And I think that when they unravel, they unravel bigger than anybody expects,
100%.
including themselves, because
100%.
they're usually so contained and so, you know, so moderate or so, controlled or so whatever it is, and then suddenly that's gone, and the person who's here now is none of the things
No.
that they think of
You're
themselves
so
as.
right. I feel like I've seen parts of myself that I didn't even know were like scarily I didn't know were a part of me. Not
Mm,
to say that I was a completely different person, but I was in some form. Like I didn't know I could be so viscerally angry and in
yeah,
turmoil and distraught, to the point where it was unfathomable. Like it was just unfathomable. I know we spoke about it, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning it. But when it was actually recently, I went to a staff away day. It's like a well-being team away day, and I'd been fine. I was like so excited. I love any excuse for snacks and drinks and games. Love it, love it. And I was so excited. And we were just had this little reflection moment for some of the therapists to talk about some of the managers. Oh, thank you for supporting me. Blah blah. It was like a little feedback corner. And my line manager, she had lost her dad actually a year before, so she had been like pivotal in me navigating bereavement whilst I was
mm,
working, and we spent a lot of time connecting over that. And I would sometimes just call her and she would be in her car, and it would be like talking me through these
mm,
like upsurges. But I'm there, and I'm like oh, I'm going to say something really nice about my line manager and it's going to be really great and I'm just going to make a couple of jokes. And I remember I went into it being like, sorry to kill the mood, guys. My dad died last year. I do deal with it with humor for sure. And as soon as I started talking to her to be like, thank you so much for supporting me, I don't know what happened. And still to this day, it freaks me out. I know it shouldn't. This wave of grief erupted from me, and I was hysterically sobbing, and I was trying to push it down whilst it was happening. I was like, I don't know what's happening right now, guys. I think this is grief. I'm sorry, I've just mentioned my dad. And I was trying to continue my sentence, and I ended up sobbing in front of a room of 25 people because I'd mentioned my dad.
Yeah.
And I couldn't control it. Once I started, I couldn't stop. And
that's scary as well.
That was so scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying because the harder you try to control it, the less control you have, it seems. It's a funny thing. I don't know how that algorithm got built, but it exists.
What's that about?
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's just, and then I got up from the table and I walked to the bathroom, and naturally, I mean, if you can't cry in a room full of therapists, well, what's the point? But they all kind of followed me, and I went, guys, the more you talk to me, the more I'm going to keep crying. And I was trying to normalize in the bathroom. And then I wore my sunglasses for the rest of the away day, because I was just I couldn't. But it was so scary. It was so scary, Doug, because it was just, again, this feeling of I'm actually not in control of my emotions as I think I am.
Yeah.
Coping mechanisms. I guess your grief has transformed over the years. How have you found, coping? What have you done to cope? What's that like?
Well, in terms of grief and my mother, I think a big part of my coping mechanism has actually been, oddly enough, talking with my dad. My dad came over here for Christmas that year. And then the lockdowns hit. And my dad and I started talking 3-4 times a week. So in that first lockdown from March 2020, I mean, we'd been talking a little bit more often anyways, because I was trying to support him. But then the lockdowns hit, and he was locking down alone. We started talking 3-4 times a week, and initially it was for 45 minutes, an hour. Then we started having these 3-4 hour conversations during lockdown, and it was hard actually, because my dad has very strong political beliefs that I don't share. And we spent a lot of time on those calls trying to work out how to converse with each other without being nasty to each other.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting, but I think it became a little bit of a coping mechanism for both of us, because he was going through he still is. He's remarried now, and he's still going through his own grieving process for my mom. But I think that for both of us, part of our coping mechanism for the loss of his wife, my mom, was to find our common ground. I don't know if that's a coping mechanism. I think it's something that happened.
Absolutely, it is. I think
we allowed it to happen.
It's reconnecting and closing the distance. There's something about being close to the people or the person that was also... this sounds really weird, and I hope you understand when I say it like this. There's something about being close to the person that also knew this person. I do mean that in more of a spiritual sense of we shared this person, and being close to you makes me feel close to them
Mm-hmm.
in a way,
Yeah.
which I feel, and I feel with my mum. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional.
Oh.
I feel
You
that with.
joked at the beginning of this.
Wait, what did you say?
You joked at the beginning of
I
this.
did. I'm the one crying. It's me.
Hey,
No,
hey,
but
I had tears as well. I'm just not sobbing.
no. I know. It's being with my mum and knowing that he loved me, but it's weird, like, sometimes knowing that he loved my mum and my mum was, like, with him. So that's comfort.
Yeah.
And these are happy tears. That's comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people take comfort in spiritual beliefs.
Yes.
God, my father-in-law passed away
Mm.
2 years ago. I think it's 2 years ago now, and that was hard. And I wasn't there when it happened. We again, it was cancer. We
Mm.
knew it was coming. We didn't know exactly when it was going to happen. It was a waiting game. Who knows? And I had to. We knew we were getting close. We were down to like weeks. We thought, and I had a convention to go to in the States, and it was, the conventions they're great fun. I love going to them. I love interacting with fans, but it's also it's a form of work as well. So
Yeah.
I get paid to go to those conventions,
Yeah.
and it's money that we needed. Um, and I went to a convention in the U.S. and my father-in-law passed away while I was there. And I couldn't be here for my wife and my mother-in-law and brother-in-law until 3 days later. But around that time, because I was still kind of grieving my mom, and also because I was watching my father-in-law, who is a man who I deeply respected and loved as well.
Yeah.
Watching him slip away was really painful. And I did this thing. I've always been kind of a spiritual person, and I recognize now what it was. I got really into this. This is around the same time. I think it was around the same time that I was just that Natural Six was just coming into being. And if you don't know what Natural Six is, go check it out. It's really cool. We're on
Do
YouTube.
it.
It's an actual play Dungeons and Dragons group, and it's me and some other voice actors who you probably know if you're a gamer, and some other industry professionals, gaming industry professionals, and we play Dungeons and Dragons. So we had just started talking about this idea, and it was around the same time that I was starting to create my character, Kelyns, who's a dragonborn druid.
Dragonborn druid, tree hugger.
Huh?
Tree hugger.
Yeah.
I feel the trees in my spleen, verbatim.
So I was creating this druid character. I usually play rangers, but the DM was like, we could really use another healer. Have you ever thought about playing a druid? So I was like, okay, I'll look into it. And I looked and I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll play a druid. Sure, why not? But that got me thinking about, what is a druid? Not just in D&D, but druidry. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I was just messing around on a web search, and I found loads of information about pagan religions and druidry in the UK today and stuff like that. And I found this organization called OBOD, Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids.
Oh, how do I sign up? That sounds...
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, I did sign up.
That's so cool.
So you can, I mean, it's now I think it's a little bit new agey, chamomile tea and candles and sandals kind of thing. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's
Don't
a,
judge me and my candles and sandals, Doug.
no,
That's
no, this is the thing. I am candles and sandals, and Holly, our mutual friend, she describes me as candles and
candles
sandals, and
and
she is right.
sandals.
She is correct. But and I am a spiritual person. I'm not religious. I don't follow a particular
Yeah.
spiritual path or anything. But I latched on to this idea of becoming a druid, a modern day druid. So I signed up for the course. The first course is the Bardic course, where you learn the basic tenets of druidism as it's practiced by this organization. You know, there are other organizations that do things similar that are different, but I found this one and I liked the look of it. So I signed up for the 1 year long course. They send you, little booklets with activities and things to think about, and you're supposed to start a journal and, journal your discovery of the ideas in Druidism. And so I debated for ages about doing this. Just after Christmas, I signed up to do this course. And I was all excited, and I was like, "This is going to be cool." I'm going to become a
Got my
druid.
sandals ready.
Yeah,
Yeah, you need to get a staff now. Oh my god,
yeah,
where do I buy
I
a
know,
staff
I know.
from? And
I'm
a
going to be
white
a proper
robe.
tree hugger, man. Anyway, so I started getting the material in the post and online, and I was in forums and things like that, and I was just checking it all out, and then gradually it went away.
Oh.
It just kind of, the pamphlets kept coming. I was still getting the course materials. I just wasn't doing anything with it. And I think it was me trying to make some kind of sense of the loss of my mother and then my father-in-law. It was me trying to find a context within which I could somehow make sense of it all, because I grew up in the Christian faith. I'm not a practicing Christian now. There's a lot about organized religion I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the faith system that I grew up in was helpful to me. And I found this other idea, another way of thinking about the world and the realm of possibilities of what happens after death, or how matter and energy recycle and all that kind of stuff. And I think I saw in Druidry a way to put my grief into context and the experience into context that made some kind of sense. And maybe me not completing the course was partly about me recognizing that no, that this isn't going to do that for me.
Wow, okay.
Or I don't know, but I did recognize after the fact that my interest in Druidry was sparked initially by the idea of playing a druid in Dungeons and Dragons, but because through that I found this other idea. I think subconsciously, maybe, or unconsciously, I saw it as a way to deal with some of my grief.
Absolutely, you're looking for a connection to a higher a system, a way in which that they're not just gone, that there is something, there is a thread that's like tying us to the people that we loved, that it's not just, whether that's just a thread of connection, Oh, Doug, I really get it though. I really get it.
Yeah.
I really get it. I'm a practicing witch, so I actually do a lot
I was
of that.
thinking, I was gonna ask you about it, because there was just a vibe I was getting off you. I thought, I bet she's a practicing Wiccan, and
oh my god, that's like a dream come true. I'm finally being
I looked into Wicca at one point as well, and I had the same kind of experience that I have with Druidism, where I was just like, this is really cool, and I'd like to learn more about this. I think I now have a fundamental dislike of anybody telling me what to believe.
Absolutely.
That's
like, no, you're like, I'm not joining an order. This is ridiculous. 100%.
Yeah, but if you want to talk about it on this call, that's great. I'm all ears, because I think Wicca is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only if you want to talk about it.
No, yeah, I mean, it coincides with my mental health and grief for sure. I mean, okay, I'll give you the TLDR, like the shortened version. My mother was in an unhealthy relationship with my biological dad, and so that was a very traditional Irish Catholic relationship. My mum was quite a traditional, caretaker at home. And my mum's act of rebellion was finding out about a local psychic circle at the local spiritualist church in the area.
Cool.
And she was Catholic at this point. And so she would go to my dad and say, oh, I'm going for my girls' night, for my, I don't know what she used to call it.
Like bridge or something.
Yeah, like... like crocheting. Or she would say something like, I'm going for my heebie-jeebie night. My mum would go to these circles, developing her psychic skill, building this, this strength for herself, and then she ultimately did leave the relationship. Which very beautifully ties into her meeting my stepdad when I was 7, because he was a medium. He was a clairvoyant. Oh. So they met, had built their relationship. They used to tour at spiritualist churches together and give readings together, and it was a real part of their relationship. And so I grew up really conflictingly. I went to Catholic schools. I mean, I'm pretty sure my grandparents were very much like, she needs to go to a Catholic school, that's it, there's no, So I was going through Catholic school, but then when I would come home from school, my mum would be giving readings on the table to someone, crying, and then what do you see in the crystal ball, Sheila? What do you see in the cards? And I was having this like dual identity of really wanting to lean into this like other stuff, which I felt much more attuned with than Catholicism. It didn't fit with me. I didn't agree with it, and I felt much more free and much more connected to a universe or something bigger. So that's kind of the context of it. And then it kind of grew as I got older. I was practicing it more. I've got loads of books that I was reading, and actually how to be a practicing witch. And I think it looks differently from everyone, but it's met one of my closest witchy friends, I'll say, at an astrology event. Basically, it was an event to meet friends, and you were matched on your star signs. Whether you believe in astrology or not, I was in. As soon as they said astrology, I was in, take my money. And we were matched on our Mercury sign, right? Or like our Mercury, and apparently we were going to be best friends. And it was like, that's exactly what happened. I'm not saying that was but it's so we have like coven nights where we do full tarot spreads. The eclipse that happened recently, I did manifestation spells, and it makes me feel so connected to my stepdad, because that was him, and that's my mum, that's him. I'd say I'm even more witchy than my mum. My mum is quite old school clairvoyant, more so, whereas me, I do the whole spells, and I'll, my fiance will be painting his Warhammer, and I'll come in with the sage, and I'll sage him, and I'll be like, I'm just saging you for your week of work, and he just sits there, and he's like, sure, like, he's like, that's fine. Or I'll sage my cat, and like, I love it. I don't know if that answered your question. That was a bit of a information dump, but I get very excited talking about it.
It wasn't really a question, it was just me kind of describing how as part of my grief, unconsciously, I tried to find solace and sense through something.
Through something. And I think even though the Wicca had been there for me from a child, when I had my grief and I lost my stepdad, I definitely really lent into it. I remember I was like, this sounds really funny if you don't really believe in this sort of thing. But I was like, I talk to my dad all the time, but I was begging him to visit me. I was begging him. I was actually saying, please come in my dreams tonight. I would do tarot for myself. I think it came a little bit, probably in the time when that was happening, I was very similarly trying to find a thread that it's really interesting because I did dream of him. And then that really upset me. So it felt like, although I felt like I wanted this connection and I wanted to see him, I almost like then couldn't handle that. So I'm sitting in a much better place with it, where I talk to him and he sits on my desk, and in terms of his picture. And when I do practice, I still almost evoke him as like a protector. If I'm about to do a spell or something, I'll ask him to stand with me because he's always been my protector. So it's that way that I kind of cope, I think. Integrating him more healthily, I suppose, into it. But that's really interesting that you went into that, and obviously you didn't end up kind of really falling into it. But I think it served you a purpose at that time.
It did. It served me a purpose at the time, because it gave me somewhere to put some of what I was feeling, even though it didn't actually, I didn't become a druid. I didn't do any of the rituals. I started reading the rituals, and I'm a very practical person. I'm a very spiritual person, but I'm also a very practical person.
Yeah.
And I was reading some of the rituals and things for, like, Samhain, and
Yeah.
the various equinoxes and various things. And I was like, well, this feels silly to me. I don't want to do that. So I started making up my own rules and going, well, I will acknowledge this equinox this way.
In saying that, though, I think spiritualism and Wicca, I feel like spiritualism is the umbrella. And I feel like spiritualism can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah.
Genuinely. I think it can.
Do you know, I do, though, I do identify with so much of nature-based practice and faith and stuff like that. I've got a the Green Man.
Yes.
I've got like a cement or whatever. I don't know what material it is, but it's a leafy green man.
Yeah.
And I hung him on my fence out in the back garden.
Amazing.
And within weeks, he's been out there. Yeah, 2 years. It was about the time I started getting interested in druidry. So I got this Green Man for my birthday, I think, from my wife, and I put him out in the garden. And wherever I put him in the garden, ivy grows. Yeah.
Spooky.
I'm dead serious. It is spooky. It is weird. And like I hung him on a post. The ivy came up directly underneath him and spread up the fence. And I moved him and cut all the ivy off because I didn't want it to destroy the fence. I moved him down the garden a little ways, and the ivy came back under him. And every time I go out, I like to go out at night, especially when it's a clear sky, or when there's a full moon, or just a nice bright
yeah.
And you can see the stars when the air is a bit crisp and cool, and there's wisps of clouds. And I go out there and I talk to the Green Man.
I love that, though. No, that's fantastic. I mean, genuinely, I'm telling you now, he's probably playing a few tricks on you. That's what it is.
He probably is. And I don't. Do I really believe that man-made Green Man is calling forth the ivy? I don't know, but it's fun to think about it. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to think, what if it is?
Yeah.
What if there is something more than we
Yep.
can see or sense with our eyes, ears, nose,
Yep.
fingers? There's something more that we don't. I like mysticism.
I think I like the unknowing, and it could be this. It could be that the ivy's growing because the Green Man's, having a little tinkle on the fence. But like.
Yeah. No, that's me. That's me tinkling.
Oh, that's you. Okay, that's you. Yeah, you're doing that. Okay. You are the Green Man, apparently. But that's really cool. And I think whether or not it's something that you carry forward, I suppose in my little spiritual belief, there was something that was calling you, and you answered, and you had a little conversation for a bit, and then you were sent on your way, and you took what you needed to from it.
Yeah. And coming back to the idea of coping mechanisms, we all have different ways. And I think it's really important that you follow your nose. I'm a really big believer in instinct.
Yes. Yeah.
If you feel like a particular path to whatever you're struggling with, or a particular path through it, as long as it's not, stupid and dangerous or harming others, or harming yourself. If you want to explore religion, if you want to, I remember when I first left the university the first time, one of the things that was a revelation was going swimming. And I remember the feeling of the water around my body, the feeling of swimming was so therapeutic, just like beautifully therapeutic. And it was ironic that I would talk about it at coming up, like a diver coming up to the surface. But, joining the gym and trying to recover some of my health was part of my therapy.
You have this natural instinct for kind of mindfulness, which is quite interesting. I don't know if that's something that you've.
Mm.
Mindfulness is like, obviously it's being really present with your emotion and really present with your where you are. It's really good for anxiety or like breaking out of the looping, the rumination you were talking about earlier of being present in the room. It's very similar to meditation, but it doesn't even have to be sitting and humming in a room. It can literally be you go swimming and you feel the water on your skin, or you feel the temperature and you hone in on that feeling, and that's mindfulness. Like, it's a way to completely ground yourself, and you have quite a natural instinct to do that. I don't know if you know or have noticed. Is that something that you knew?
Well, I think it's something you talking about it makes it obvious to me. I don't think that I think about it on a daily basis, but I do things like I don't know when exactly this started, but when I grew up, my dad at family events or when we were, doing something fun and exciting, he always had a camera around his neck. He was always trying to
Interesting.
capture the experience or the moment
Yeah.
or whatever. And somewhere along the line for me, I decided I didn't want to do that. I decided I wanted to not try to capture the history of this moment. I wanted to live this moment. Um,
Yep.
and some of it might be actor training because in actor training, we talk a lot about the truth of the moment and how, as actors, we have to live each moment, even though we've rehearsed this moment for a play 100 times. Every night during performance, it has to be the first time.
Oh my god.
You're not just repeating the same lines, the same movements, etc., the same way every single time. It'll be similar every single time because you have to hit those milestones to tell the story, but the best acting comes out of living truthfully through those milestones so that every performance is a fresh performance. It's coming from a genuine
Yep.
place of being truthful in this moment, not the moment that happened last night,
Yep.
but the moment that's happening right now. And for me as an actor, um, I'm always trying to put myself in truthfully into this moment of whatever I'm performing. And I think that that's leaked into my life as well. I want to experience the present. There's a great, I'm going to tell it wrong, but there was a great quote from somebody who said, "We can't change the past. The future is unknown, and we have very little power to determine the future. The present is all we really have, and it's called the present for a reason because it is the present, and
Mm.
it's and the very fact that we are existing in this moment in time is a gift. It's the
God, that
present.
is stunning.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So it's like it's a way of
It's the present.
thinking about. I mean, it goes back to Druidry and Wicca and how we fit ourselves into
Yeah.
this world. But that idea of you have no control over the past, you can't change it. You have very little, if any, control over the future. All you really have any control over is the present, and the best way to, and you have no control over that. So just be present in this moment in time and enjoy living it.
God, I feel like that's just something that we all need. We can get so caught up in the 9 to 5, the schedule and the routine that we have, and taking for granted the moments that we experience. And
Yeah,
you're so right about, like, I like what you said about your the fact that your dad would have the camera and it was about capturing this. So it happened. I have evidence that this happened, but for you it was more about, I'm going to indulge myself in this moment completely so that I will know within myself that this happened because I will remember the emotions from it.
yeah.
And that's so, I love that.
And it's not something that you do every moment of every day. If you're
No,
going
you.
grocery shopping and you're trying to
Yeah.
decide whether to buy a
Wow, I
red apple
love
or
this
green apple.
apple.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we both went to apples.
huh?
Did you say apple?
Yeah.
We both said apple at the same time. Oh.
I told you I'm a witch. I told you it's
Point I was trying to make just then was, it's not about fully living every single moment. If you're just
Yeah.
trying to decide whether it's a green apple or a red apple that you want to eat for lunch, just pick an apple.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that is living in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's more about like you were talking about mindfulness and taking moments to stop and just appreciate that you're alive, or to acknowledge that something not nice is happening.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. Validating it as both. This fucking sucks. Accepting the good and the bad and being okay with that. Actually, I welcome the flaws and I welcome the difficult times because they give value to the times that are really good.
Yeah.
That's cheesy, but
No, it's not at all. It's not at all. I said something. We were recording Natural Six just yesterday. One of the other characters was questioning my character's ability to cook really good food, and yet he also likes to eat food that has a strong potential to be highly unsavory, because
okay.
what he ended up saying at the table was, well, sometimes you have to taste the gross to appreciate the great.
Isn't that fitting? I swear I wasn't in the room. I promise you, it wasn't.
But it's true. I think you have to allow yourself to feel things, and I think you have to find a way to accept how you cope, how you do things. We all there's not a person in this world who doesn't have some kind of mental health struggle.
Oh yeah.
There just isn't. But I'm going to share with you something that I cope with. When I was born, my aunt gave me a blanket, and it was like my swaddling blanket. It was the blanket that my mom wrapped me up in, and it was a white blanket that had a satin edge. This blanket became my blanket. It lived with me until it was literally nothing but
nothing. A thread.
I grew up rubbing that satin, and it was a comfort thing because it was there from the time I was born. So little baby me, who knew nothing, at some point latched onto this satiny feel between my fingers as a comfort. I'll show you what I've got in my pockets.
Do you have a satin? Doug, that's so special though. I genuinely feel like that's so special.
These are I call them my rubbies, and they sit in my pocket and I rub them. And it's comfort, and it's sometimes it's focus. Sometimes I think I have undiagnosed ADD. And I think this has become something that helps me to not be distracted. It gives me something to be distracted with that harms no one.
Absolutely.
Some people out there watching this might think it's a bit weird. However you cope, whatever makes you feel comfortable in your skin, able to move forward, make you feel strong, whatever it is, as long as it's not hurting anyone else or hurting yourself, great.
Yeah, it's being okay with that. It's being okay that you have that. I'm so glad that was something that there's this thing that people say that we need to grow out of certain comforts that we develop as kids and stuff. And I'm actually really fucking glad that you have continued to do that. It's really nice to hear that that is something that you indulge in for yourself because you deserve that. You deserve to have a way that helps you navigate the world and cope, because sometimes it's really fucking difficult. I think a lot of people will really need to hear that, and also really take a lot away from that. Honestly.
So
I wanted to bring it to something that you recently shared, in speaking about health and well-being. You came out very publicly recently with your journey with prostate cancer, which is huge. And I want to kind of give space for that. That's really big and very difficult. So firstly, thank you for letting me talk to you about it. How is that? What's the journey like? Could you talk me through a little bit about that?
Well, where I'm at the moment is I'm going to have a review on Monday, actually. We're recording this on a Sunday, and tomorrow morning I'm expecting a call from the oncology department to review my blood tests and the results that are in them and stuff like that. The last 4 reviews have been great. They've
Fantastic.
shown that it from everything they can tell, the cancer is gone.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, but I'm not in remission. That comes
But
later. That comes
still,
after a couple years of reviews that
yeah.
show the same thing. So that's where I am. But yeah, I was diagnosed 2.5 years ago, and yeah, it was about this time of the year, 3 years ago actually. I went. My dad has prostate cancer. My grandfather had prostate cancer.
Mm.
Um, so I was pretty sure I was genetically predisposed to getting it anyways. So I went in and got a private blood test to test my PSA levels,
Mm.
urged on by my wife, who was like you're in your 50s now. You should really go get this checked. So I went and got a private blood test, and it came back with really high PSA levels. So I took that to my GP, who did another test to verify, and they came back even higher because it was like 6 weeks later. So I was referred to the hospital, to the urology department, and they did another blood test, and it was even higher yet. And like my PSA levels, which measure the proteins that are released by prostate cancer in the blood, were like off the charts. They were really, really high. So they're like, well, okay, something's going on. So they did a biopsy, they did MRIs, they did all this stuff, and they came back and they said, well, you've got stage 3, bordering on stage 4, really aggressive form of prostate cancer. So we've got to do something. Because if we don't, you're not going to be here.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrifying. So we were given various options. One of them being do nothing and watch, and you could live for 10 years, but it will kill you. And the worry, of course, is that it metastasizes into other tissues, and then the prostate cancer probably wouldn't kill you. It's something else, a different cancer, gets into the lymphatic system or something like that. So we opted for a full prostatectomy, took the whole thing out. And then further tests showed that they hadn't got everything. So then I did hormone therapy and radiotherapy, and I finished all that last November. So just about a year ago.
Doug.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey. It looks like I'm coming out the other side of it, but it's not without its side effects.
Yeah.
You don't mess with all that stuff and not have side effects.
Yeah.
And I've been through the hormone therapy. Was really interesting. The hormone therapy for prostate cancer reduces your testosterone levels down to almost nothing. So, there are various things that happen. One of them being you gain weight, especially around the belly and in the chest area. You develop mood swings. I experienced something really interesting, which was that I felt all of my anger, not all, there was obviously some, but I became much more even. I've always had a temper. I've always been quick to anger, and I've had to work to control that. But while I was on the hormone therapy and my testosterone was reduced, I found all that just went away.
So, I mean, you said that it was a huge psychological shift for you.
It wasn't so much about the threat of dying. I don't think that scared me. I'm not really scared of dying. I said this to my dad a couple of years ago, and he was kind of like, huh. I said, I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of pain. So for me, the psychological good in a crisis.
Good in a crisis.
I was fine. I think that I'm still kind of discovering how I feel about the whole thing, and some of the changes typically that I'm now having to cope with. My wife, though, I mean, she was a wreck. She was not. Yeah, she wasn't coping very well with with this this thing at all.
You're really good at being good for other people. I know you mentioned that before when you lost your mum and you were really good in that moment on FaceTime for her and your family. And you're going through a really difficult time at the moment and you're really able to almost shield others. You've got the shield on your back.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had someone describe me as a shield once before, which was really interesting, especially from them, because I wasn't I don't feel like I was as much of a shield for them as I wanted to be, but they described me as a shield, and I took that to mean that they felt that they had been shielded, or at least, at least to a certain extent. Anyways, it's been an interesting process, and I think I did at one point look into going to a support group or something like that, just to be able to talk to other men who are going through the same kind of things. I couldn't find one. What I ended up doing, though, because there is a certain amount of unconscious or subconscious depression, I think, that comes with a diagnosis like that.
Yeah.
No matter how strong you're being, there's stuff going on.
Absolutely.
Changing, and not for the better. I'm sure you know this organization, Liven. They offer free therapy. You just have to have a good reason to need it. They have pretty long waiting lists. I had to wait about 6 months to talk to somebody. But when I did, we just talked about everything. We talked about my mom. We talked about the prostate cancer. We talked about drinking too much, which is a coping mechanism. And we talked about, all kinds of stuff. And it was all on the phone. So, I didn't have to sit face to face with anybody. The therapist who I was matched with was very good. Did it resolve anything? I don't know. Who knows? But at a time when I felt like I needed something to help me steer through, I think it did help me steer my way through. But it just meant that I had to be held accountable for what I was thinking and feeling and choices I was making, because someone was going to ask me. And, they had no agenda other than to say, well, okay, you said you were going to try this last time we talked. Did you?
In a way, we are responsible for our healing. And I know sometimes as individuals, we can put our healing onto other things. This isn't working out for me. That's not working for me. So that's why I'm not moving forward. Even on a smaller level of therapy, oh no, like you can't get a therapist in this area, right? I have to go to my GP, or it's a 6-month waiting list. Yeah. There's lots of ways that we can push our healing onto other things so that we don't do it. And so I really hear that accountability, and that's part of it, right? Were you doing Natural Six during this time?
When I started radiotherapy and stuff, we'd recorded about 6 episodes, and we just recorded episode 40. So it was around episode 6, I think, that I said to the gang, by the way, my prostate cancer isn't gone. I'm going to have to do more stuff. It's going to make me really tired. Or it might make me really tired. I just wanted to let you know, so that if I seem lethargic or seem, this is why. And it was hard. There were some sessions where, because of the hormone therapy and the radiotherapy, eventually, I was just so sleepy at the table. If I wasn't actively engaged, if I wasn't actively doing something, if other people were having moments, it was really hard for me to keep my concentration levels up. And I remember getting to some of the we do this thing called action surge, which after we record an episode, we then spend 45 minutes or an hour talking about what happened in the episode, and that's something else for the content for Patreon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some of those action surges, I was literally falling asleep at the table. I was just so tired. I had no more to give. But they were fantastic about it.
Well, it sounds like the support network that you have coined from the very beginning, that sense of companionship and community,
Mm,
right? That's really important to you. You've now got another safety net for that, and even deeper because, like, okay, you're going through quests and challenges as your characters, but as friends, you're navigating this like territory of doing this live in a way. Having this
yeah.
recorded and whatever comes up and you're dealing with that emotion. What do you feel like Natural Six has been healing for you? I mean,
I really do, actually.
yeah, I was gonna
I
say.
really, really do. Probably not in the way that you might think.
Okay.
I've always loved Dungeons and Dragons. I love the escapism. I love high fantasy. I
Mhm.
grew up on Lord of the Rings and
Mhm.
Dragon Riders of Pern and all that stuff. I was playing D&D when I was 9 years old.
Oh, you're an
Um,
OG, Doug.
yeah, 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 yeah. Old
Yeah.
school. Yeah. Um,
Like four. Did you what was the kind of D&D back then? I've played recently. I played 4 for the first time, which is completely different.
yeah.
I play a vampire and it's all different. Like you've got these different actions and then these many it's really anyway. It's changed a lot.
It's changed a lot. I mean,
It's changed a
when
lot.
I started playing, I believe it was just on the cusp. There was the original white box with
Hmm.
three little booklets in it, and that was TSR's first Dungeons and Dragons set. And I played Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. I was our the DM for our street growing up.
Oh
Or
my god, that's so cool.
time, and I was terrible. I was mean to my players. But anyways, so I love playing Dungeons and Dragons with Natural Six. It's been really, really good fun, and it's the first time ever I've been a part of a campaign and in this way. What's been healing about it is that the people I'm in Natural Six with are, well, first of all, they're just beautiful people. They are some, I mean, not not that other people aren't, but they are some of the most genuinely thoughtful, kind, um, just wonderful people I think I've ever met, and getting to know them has been a privilege and a real joy in my life. And part of that joy is that they're all absolutely disgusting. And I mean that in the best possible way. Um,
Uh,
our banter off camera is far worse than our banter on camera.
of course.
And we joke that if Natural Six had an HR department, they'd be very, very busy, and probably none of us would be there anymore.
No, yeah.
But and it's loving banter. It's like the kind of banter that you have in a very close, loving family who know each other really well.
Ins and outs, they know
Yeah,
where to poke, but that's what makes it funny. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we talk about, like if we talked about it in polite society, we wouldn't be invited back ever.
I have a phrase for myself because I have a very, very twisted, dark sense of humor. And I often joke to my friends that I feel like if I sometimes would say, if it was the 1800s and I was saying what I was saying now, I would have been given a lobotomy.
Yeah, or burned as a
Or a band as a
or
witch.
something like that. Yeah, you must be crazy if you can
Yeah.
find laughter in that.
The
All kinds of
deepest and
stuff. I mean, a
darkest,
lot of it's
yeah.
very sexual, but some of it's some of it's about experiences we've had, or it just works really well.
Mm.
I honestly, I don't think I've laughed as hard ever in my life as I often do with Natural Six.
You spoke, a little bit about sometimes with any sort of diagnosis, especially with like, more serious diagnosis, that even if you are functioning and you're fine, there is a level of depression or a level of, sadness that comes with that. What do you feel like that, D&D, Natural Six being a part of this has done for you in the moments that maybe are a little bit lower?
It's given me a regular dose of play and
Mm-hmm.
naughtiness and silliness. With Natural Six, I do feel like I can let some of that out. It gives all of us a place to just kind of go,
Yeah, this is it. This is all the word vomit. This is all the
yeah.
fucking yeah.
It's the equivalent of having that best friend who uh, you can go to them with some of your, you know, darkest,
Deepest,
deepest,
darkest.
darkest thoughts, and go what, and they'll go, wow, that's deep and dark.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen Fleabag?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
You know when she's speaking to the therapist and she says, I want to fuck a priest. And the therapist goes, Catholic? Yes. Looks good in the yes. And they have this whole interaction and she goes, good. I was like, that scene is like validation of true friendship and what that looks like in terms of this is my complete vulnerability. This is the weirdness of my psyche. And I'm going to tell you, and you're still going to love me anyway.
I run into these things sometimes that are like, little affirmations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ones I really like is, and it's not always easy to do. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, who validate you, uh,
Yep.
who accept you for your weirdnesses, who and in fact celebrate them. Even if the celebration is a gentle ribbing.
Yeah.
And anyone who doesn't lift you up, deal with them as you have to deal with them in the
Yeah.
world, but don't make them any kind of priority for you.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with the people who bring joy to your life, who validate who you are and who you want to be.
I love your authenticity, Doug. I feel like as a person, like throughout your journey, you just seek genuine connection with everything that you do, whether it's with the people that you love, whether it's the work that you do. Authenticity isn't something that everybody has, I think, and that's okay. I think some people like things to be to a certain level or, on the surface because there's more going on for them. But
Mm.
even when you're going through the most difficult times, you are continuously yourself. And
Well, who else am I going to be?
yeah, yeah.
But I thank you for that. I thank you, and I do. I want to be authentic. I want to be genuine. I'm not always, because you can't be in this world. You can't be. You have to protect yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
But in this space, you and me chatting about mental health and about
Everything.
everything. Yeah, this is a space where,
Yeah.
well, you and I set it up so that it's a safe space to talk about things. There are people who I will share certain things with, and there are people who I won't.
Mm-hmm. But that
Um,
doesn't mean that you're not authentic. That just
no,
means that you have boundaries, right? That
yeah,
you're authentic in your interaction,
yeah,
regardless of what you're choosing to share.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm. Um, my last question for you, finally, because I've taken way more of your Sunday than intended. But my last question for you is a bit of a cheesy one. But what character arc do you feel like you're in now?
Do you know what comes to mind? My mother-in-law in her bathroom
Mm-hmm.
has, I think it's a triptych of plaques on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's the life journey in 3 or 4 plaques. The first plaque,
Mm-hmm.
they're little white plaques. They're like in the Greek style, like you would see at a museum.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, a young, voluptuous, long, beautiful hair woman, in the prime of her youth, um, on her own, or as part of the same plaque but separate, a young man, virile, strong,
In his prime.
in the prime of his youth. And then the next plaque is the courtship, coming together, becoming a pair.
Yeah.
The third plaque is the two of them with children,
Mm-hmm.
all children around them. And then the last one is the two of them at home, alone, older. They're obviously in the the latter years of their life, and I love these things because it's not everyone will follow that exact path. Obviously, some people end up soloing it. Some people, have more than one partner throughout life. Some people never have children, But as a kind of a symbolic life journey thing, I think they're beautiful. I think I'm somewhere between Plaque 3 and Plaque 4. I'm not yet in the all the kids are gone, all the
Yeah.
we're alone in our one
Nest.
bundle
Yep.
nest kind of thing, and we're not with little kids anymore. We're our boys are 21 and 23 now,
Mm-hmm.
and they're moving into their second plaque. So that's how I answer that question. That's where I am in my character arc. I think that I love I don't like getting older for the the little aches and pains that start
Yeah.
nibbling at you and things
Yeah.
like that. But I do love getting older and being able to let go of certain things. If you're lucky, I think, or if you're self-aware enough where you just go, you know what? This is me.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is. And I'm okay with that. And I'm happy with that. And yeah, there's things I'd still like to, improve upon or,
Mm-hmm.
change in one form or another. But you kind of embrace the process. Because when you're younger, you're chasing you're chasing
Yeah. That's a good way
love,
to put
you're
it.
chasing,
Yeah.
success, you're chasing job, you're chasing little kids, whatever it is, you're chasing, you're running. And then I think I've come to a point in my life where certain things are forcing me to slow down.
Yeah.
Um, but that also gives me permission to choose. But like my wife and I, we chose for me to step off the higher education career ladder. I could be a dean of a department by
Yeah.
now. I chose to step away from that. Um, I choose to be a jobbing actor. Um, and while I have had some success, I also I I'm not leading towards anything. I don't have some massive goal in mind for where I want to be 10 years from now. I'm just kind of seeing how things go.
Yeah.
And some days I don't do anything at all towards seeing where things go. Some days I just play a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not gardening yet,
Mm-hmm.
but
Your
I
green
am.
man is waiting. He's waiting for you to do that.
Who is?
The green man.
Yeah, he's waiting. Yeah, but I am building structures in the garden for my
That's
wife, who is
cool.
gardening.
Well, you are, and I think, but the way that you said it is that you have a choice. You're choosing where to put your spoons. You're choosing.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
choosing
not.
what's
I'm not.
valuable.
I'm not retired by any means.
No.
I still very much have to work,
Yeah.
but we're choosing. We're choosing to live our life in a slightly different way. Work, to a certain extent, validates who you are,
Oh my god, 100%.
and
100%.
when
Yeah.
when you have a regular 9 to 5, you're being validated every day.
Yeah.
When you're a freelancer and the calls aren't coming in and you don't know what to do to help them to come in, it can be quite debilitating. It can
Yeah.
make you feel like, you're not worth it, that you're worthless, that nobody wants the talent that you think you have or the skill that you think you have. It can make you feel very bad about yourself. It's one of those things that artists deal with all the time. In some ways, it's easier to be a painter or a musician or a photographer because you can always go do your art, even if you're not getting paid for it. But as an actor,
Yeah.
it's really hard to do that. One of the things that I love about it is the interaction with other actors and, y- you know, working towards that common goal, that shared goal of the storytelling and stuff like
Mm.
that. And people say, well, go learn a monologue. That's great. I can learn a monologue, but that's practice and that is work, but it doesn't validate me.
Mm.
It doesn't tell me I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. But it's not the active participation that actually being being in it as it's happening that validates. Yeah, like the as you said, like learning a monologue, for example, is like you waiting in the wing almost. It's you doing the preparation to get on stage.
Yeah. And if you don't have enough of the I've been hired to do this job and now I'm doing this job and I'm all that practice that I did on my own
Yeah.
is now being useful, you know? So yeah, it
Yeah.
can be challenging when you're a freelancer in that way.
But as you said, or as your mum said, you're a shooting star. So you continue, you know, this is like you're still on that journey. You've still got that desire and that confidence that brought you to that little theatre in York in the beginning. Right? You're still finding your way despite the uncertainty of it, and you've always had the confidence to do that. You're facing that uncertainty, which I think is amazing and scary and terrifying, but it brings so many good things, and it's brought you to who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it, when you think about you know, I don't know if you've done this. I'm sure you have. You're a therapist. You've done this. When you think about where you've come from and how it's informed who you are today, all those choices. You know, I think about sometimes, and I know you're. I got the impression you were starting to lead us towards saying goodbye.
No, not at all. Not at all. I was giving a roundup of my feelings about what you had said.
Yeah.
Of you know, you were talking, just to cut in, like about the that you don't know exactly what each day looks like for you at the moment, but I was just reflecting on actually that's something that you've always been okay with sitting with.
I think it's the undiagnosed ADD as well.
Yeah,
it's very hard to just sit still.
Yeah, always needing something new.
We went on a holiday to Rome back in 2011, I think it was, a long time ago now. And I was desperately overworked, needing a holiday. And before we went, we said, okay, we need to build into this holiday. You know, we want to see cool stuff in Rome, but we also need time to just sit and read our books. Did we sit and read our books?
No.
Hell no. We walked away from that holiday. But on the very last day, we literally had checked out of the hotel, but we said to them, you know, we had a couple hours to kill, and we checked out. We said, is it okay if we just go up on the roof? They had a wonderful roof terrace that looked out over parts of the city.
Gorgeous.
And it was gorgeous. And so do you mind if we just go hang out on the roof terrace for a couple hours before we go to the airport? And they were like, yeah, fine. So we went up to the roof terrace and we sat and we read our books. And we looked out over the city, and we both kind of looked at each other after, I don't know, half an hour, and went, why haven't we been doing this? We walked miles in August heat in Rome.
Why do we do that when we go on holiday?
Yeah, just like punishing ourselves.
Why do
like,
we do that?
We may never come back to Rome again. We have to do it all.
And you walked like 50k steps in one day.
Only at the end did we sit down in the last 2 hours before we flew home and relax.
I like to think that you got extra energy out. You guys were probably sleeping amazing.
No, we weren't.
No, great.
No, because it was hot, and we were in a hotel in an old building with no aircon.
Oh my god. Me and Tam did it in Prague recently. We went to Prague for 4 days. I was talking about burnout, and I said, I'm going to go on annual leave. I'm going to take a holiday. And we went. He was burnt out. Okay, let's go to Prague. I had one day, basically, Interview with the Vampire is a TV show, my favourite TV show ever. And they filmed a lot in Prague in season 2. And I had this itinerary of all the filming locations that I needed to visit. And that was the only thing I had on the agenda, though. The other days, we were just free and we could do anything. What did we do? We did the filming locations. We smashed that out. We climbed a bloody mountain by accident because one of the filming locations was at the top of a fucking mountain, Doug. And we both ended up pulling the calf muscles in our legs. So we were crippled for the rest of the holiday. And we ended up just doing as much as we possibly could, eating and drinking as much as we possibly could. And then by day 4, we'd done like 30,000 steps a day, spent all of our money, and then we were back to work on the Monday. And my manager says to me when I return, how was Prague? How was it? Did you enjoy yourself? You know, did you relax? And I was like, you could say that. You could say that. I climbed a mountain and you could say that.
Sometimes you have to give yourself permission to stop. To not go to that next sightseeing spot, to not have that next experience, to sit and stop. I think everybody benefits. No matter who you are, everybody can benefit from finding that kind of thing in your life.
Yeah, permission to stop. I'm going to take that away. I don't think I give myself permission enough. I'm very much someone that's like, go, 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 you know? I think maybe as an anxious person, I find that I do have to just fill my time, because otherwise the thoughts, but more so in terms of keeping busy makes me feel in control. So I suppose those small quiet moments are going to be times to reflect, but allow myself to be okay with not being busy, right?
Well, this has been a lovely conversation.
I'll
be interested to see if anybody sticks it out for the whole 4 hours.
With my other podcasts, they tend to be like 2 hours or something, and I'm able to condense them into an hour. But we'll see with this one. You've given me a challenge, Doug, but I appreciate it. It's only going to make me better. I feel like I've got a lot out of it. And
I feel like I have too, because I don't think about this stuff very often. I don't sit down and analyze my own mental health or some of the things that I've struggled with in the past. I don't really actively do that. So, chatting with you and, you asking questions about, how do you cope with stuff? I have to think about that. It's kind of nice to sit and think about that, and acknowledge that there is a journey there, because you can easily say, if, if we met on the street and you'd be like, do you have any mental health issues? I'd probably say, no, not really.
No, not at all.
But the reality is we all do. We all do.
Yeah.
We just don't, stop long enough to think about all the things we're currently coping with and all the things that have, in the past that have informed how we deal with today, that inform our mental health. But you're also, you're very open, and, being a therapist, that you have, skills in helping people open up and giving them the space to do that, and all of that, all of those therapy skills. Now, I'm not saying I feel like I've had a therapy session. I feel like we just had a really nice chat.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But you're very easy to talk with, and you're very open about your own, your own journey as well, which is, makes it easy to talk about my journey. So
I appreciate that. I got a lot of validation from everything that you said. I really took a lot away from it, and it's been so valuable to me, especially about grief, and it's been really valuable. So thanks.
Well, it's the same for me. I feel, because your reactions to some of the things that I've described, and you saying, I know what you mean, and having, describing your own reactions to things and feelings about things, and I go, I get it. I know, I understand.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice thing.
Thank you so much. Genuinely, I've had so much fun. I can't believe we've gone on for so long as well. I did say we were going to yap though. I did have a feeling. But thank you so much for spending your Sunday with me.
It's been a pleasure.
Seriously.
Absolute pleasure, Sheila.
Thank you. Please, we've spoken about some really deep shit, so just go and do something funny and have a cup of tea. And
I think I'm going to go eat a pickle.
I fucking love pickles. I do that.
I do too. I love pickles.
I've got a jar in the fridge, and I just...
What kind?
They're a brand that's not in English, so...
Oh.
I don't know, but they're really good.
Oh, send me a message. Tell me what they are.
Okay, I'll tell... Yeah, but they're like a gherkin. They're great. They're great.
Oh, man. I've... I really miss the classic American dill pickle.
I'm going to send you these ones, because I am a bit of a pickle connoisseur. That's a funny word, but... I try different jars of pickles from the shop. I'm not joking, because I
do the same thing.
Go and have a pickle. You deserve it.
Yeah.
I might do the same.
Yeah.
I might do the same. Let's go and have
We'll
a
both
pickle.
get off the call. We'll go have a pickle.
much, Doug. Thank you seriously again. It's been so much fun.